What's up, Kearney Power peeps? That was corny, wasn't it?
Yeah, a little
Yeah,
bit.
that was dumb. So today, in another episode of our Just the Tip series, we are going over my favorite event. Right? My favorite event. One of my favorite events. The Yoke Walk. This is an event that I have historically done very well in. And really, again, this is another one of those events that we see in strongman a lot. We're seeing more in CrossFit as well. If you watch the CrossFit Games last year, the women had, I think it was a 460 pound or 480 pound yoke, and the men had almost 660. So like pretty heavy yokes for these CrossFit athletes. So making sure we're all doing this as effectively and safely as possible. And obviously the goal is to get this implement from point A to point B as fast as possible. Luckily, I'm fast, only with a yoke, literally not in anything else in life. So I'll try to transfer some of those skills over to you.
And action.
So, when we're going over the yoke walk, we want to go over a few fundamental things to make sure we make this thing work with your body and not against you. This is an awkward implement. We're carrying a bunch of weight on our back. It's going to want to crush us, but we have to maintain core stability. Make sure we're moving our feet really quickly and effectively, again, to get from point A across the finish line as quickly as possible. So a few things that we want to talk about. We want to look at bar placement on our upper back. Now, when we're doing this, we don't want to do this. I'm going to face away to show you. We don't want to be too high on the neck, so we don't want to be here. We also don't want to be too low on the back. So we don't want to be like a high bar or a low bar squat. We want to be kind of right in the middle. The anatomical landmark I typically use is the meat of the upper trap or right over the spine of the scapula. If you don't know where that is, Google it. You'll learn a little bit of science for today. You're welcome. There's your education. Who thought you would have come here for that? So that's the place we're looking to really have this set into the yoke, because what that's going to do is having it in that spot, when we put our hands in place and we tighten up our back, it's going to create a shelf for us to really stabilize this on our back so it doesn't slide off when we're moving. Great segue into our next point, hand placement on the yoke. I see all too often people get into this position of treating this like a back squat and having their hands on the crossbar. That is not what we want to do. What we want to do is we want to be able to stabilize these uprights as efficiently as possible, because if we don't, this yoke is going to want to swing on us back and forth, which is going to put strain on our core, on our hips, on our legs. And again, the yoke is going to be working against us, not with us. So what we want to do is we actually want to place our hands on the uprights themselves. So when I line myself up on this yoke, depending on how long your arms are and how mobile you are, your hand placement could be up nice and high. It could be nice and low. For me, I typically take a lower hand placement. I want to make sure my thenar eminence, another anatomical term, hello. So essentially the fatty part of our hand at the base of our thumb is on the inside of the upright, and I place my thumb on the inside as well. What this is going to allow me to do is when I pick this yoke up, I want to push out against the uprights while driving my elbows forward. What that's going to do is it's going to create some forward lean on the yoke. It's going to pick the front end of the yoke up a little bit. Pushing out is going to stabilize these bad boys so they're not moving all over the place when we're walking. And again, driving those elbows forward is going to help carry our momentum forward to make sure we're always moving in that direction where we want to go. Now, this thing doesn't start swinging and works us backwards. Finally, we're going to talk about foot placement and footwear. Right now, I'm wearing my amazing, trusty Innovates. These are the F-Lite 260s. What I typically recommend is a medium to hard-soled shoe. So we don't want to be in anything too cushiony, because what that's going to do is it's going to minimize the amount of force transfer from the floor through our bodies and give us an unstable surface to walk Typically I've done yoke walks in barefoot style shoes. I've switched over to these just because I notice it's a little bit easier on my shins and I feel better, and I can still stay really controlled with the yoke on my back without feeling like my feet are doing this while I'm walking, okay? So when we get under this yoke, we know the bar placement on our shoulders, we know where our hands are gonna be. We're then going to get our foot placement. Now, a lot of times I see people take this really wide stance when they go to pick up a yoke. Now, what that's gonna do is when we go to pick this thing up, if I'm here, I'm not then gonna walk like this with the yoke on my back, right? Doing that, we're gonna get a lot of side-to-side lean, and it's also gonna make it a lot harder for us to pick up speed and move efficiently. So, we wanna pick this yoke up in the stance we're gonna be walking and or moving quickly, right? So we want our feet just under or just outside of our hip width. So that's where my pick is gonna be. We're making sure my midfoot is in line with the uprights. That's gonna make sure that when we go to pick this thing up and I get my hips under me, we're picking up nice and straight, and we're not behind the yoke putting strain on our back. So midfoot in line, feet are just outside or hip width. Again, even before I pick this thing up, I have an active upper body, so I'm really pushing out hard with my arms here, starting to drive those elbows forward. We pick, we brace, and you can see that the front of that yoke is tipped up a little bit. That's exactly what we want, because that's gonna carry my momentum forward in the direction I wanna go. So once we pick it up, we're just taking small Fred Flintstone-esque steps to get to our destination. The length of the step that I typically recommend is a foot or half a foot length every step. So I mentioned like the Fred Flintstone analogy, maybe dating myself here, but when we saw that cartoon, we would see his feet be turning really quick, short, quick, choppy steps. That's what we want to do with the yoke. We don't want to be taking long strides, because what that does is it puts a lot of strain on us laterally and also too much strain on the front foot. Going to slow us down, make us less efficient while doing this carry. So quick, short steps. Again, with our pick, our feet are underneath our hips or just outside hip width, nothing wider. Coming up the chain, we're keeping our core nice and braced the entire time. When we're walking, breathing obviously is a factor. So what I tend to typically have people do is you take a big breath in, contract the core, stay really tight. Once you feel the point where you need to take a breath, we want to maintain our core tightness. So when you exhale, you don't want to just be here, and you can see automatically how my shoulders relax, my chest, and my abs relaxed as well. We want to forcefully exhale while forcefully inhaling at the same time. So we take that big breath, we're going, I need to breathe. So you're pushing the air out, inhaling excessively as well. And what that's going to do is maintain that abdominal pressure that we need to be quick and efficient with this yoke. Continuing on up the chain, we have our hands on the upright, our thenar eminence and our thumbs on the inside of those uprights, pushing out, driving our elbows forward to make sure this is moving in the direction we want to go, with a nice strong bar placement on the spine of the scapula. Again, hello anatomy. Making sure we're in a really tight locked in position in our upper back, so this thing isn't too far up on our neck, putting strain on our neck, on our cervical spine, and it's not too far down on our back, which is going to put strain on our anterior portion of the shoulder and also risk sliding off the back. I think that pretty much carried it.
I think you got it all.
I like this event a lot. I could talk a lot about it. It's one of my favorites. For me, there's just something about carrying a bunch of weight as fast as possible is just fun for me, and it just looks really cool. I may be biased just because I'm good at it. But as always with this series, throw some questions down below if you feel I missed some things, some topics to touch upon. If you have other questions about the yoke walk, again, do not hesitate to throw them in the comments below. Comment on just how much you love me. That's another thing you could throw in there. We never stop. Yeah, right, babe?
Mm-hmm.
Also comment on how much you love Joey. He's not telling me to say that whatsoever. But we absolutely love making these videos. We have so much fun with all of you. Joey and I somehow have not strangled each other as of yet. But as always, check out the sponsors down below in the description. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. And until next time, peace out.